didn't want to believe what was unfolding in front of me. It started to grow more and more obvious each day that we searched that the likelihood of recovering these men from the water was becoming lower and lower every day.
Yeah.
During that time, it felt like I was being almost stalked or watched by some sort of entity.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Have you lived on this planet before? In another time? Another place? About half the people of the world believe in reincarnation. That a human soul journeys through hundreds or even thousands of lives on its path to enlightenment. Fiona Harris is uniquely gifted in the art of past life regressions. Using gentle hypnosis, Fiona is able to help clients reconnect with subconscious memories of their past lives. For each episode in this series, Fiona will do a past life regression with our guest. She and the guest will then join me on the podcast to discuss the past lives they discovered and how this information will be utilized by the guest in their life moving forward. Please join us. Today's guest is Peter Borzi. Peter grew up among relatives who were very connected to the sea. Peter followed in their footsteps, ultimately serving as a merchant marine, a pirate hunter, until the day that turned his entire life upside down and catapulted him into dimensions he never even knew existed.
We've been around this town, but we have never been here before.
Peter Borzi, thank you so much for being with us on the podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So, Peter, how did you come to this podcast?
Yeah, I would say around this time last year, I was going through some stuff emotionally, and I found Fiona online.
Who's
through,
not a traditional therapist, right?
Not a traditional
I'm not a
therapist, but I really liked what she had to say, and I was like, I need to connect with this person. I didn't know anything about past life regression. I actually didn't. I was very skeptical. Didn't really believe in it, and here we are today. So there's definitely
there's been some change in that
yes,
that area.
Definitely.
So Peter contacted me, and like he mentioned, he had never done I don't think you had done anything like this, although you'd had some strange experiences, some weird things that were going on that we'll get back to. But you came for a regression, and it was insane. It was like really, really cool.
Okay, so for people who maybe don't know what a past life regression is, can you just, Fiona, give us just a quick smidgen of what that is?
Yeah. I take a client into a very deeply relaxed state. And when you're deeper relaxed, but you're still like very kind of focused, you're generally in the theta brainwave state. And it's easy to guide a client into a place where they're able to choose one of their past lives, and they're able to access their past lives.
And when they're choosing that past life, is that a conscious decision, or is that happening at a higher level, or what's that?
It's definitely happening at a higher level. So the client doesn't know what they're going to get. Unless someone specifically came in and said, hey, I know I had this as a past life. My intention is to go there. But generally, clients, I take them down this long hallway with all of these doorways and doors, and I just say, choose one. Maybe we have an intention, like the person wants to be healed, or, they want to face a phobia or something. But yeah, no, he just walked down. He found a door that stood out to him in some way and went through, and crazy things ensued after that. So
it's almost like you might say his higher self was sort of directing him to that door, and he's getting an instinct, that's the one I should look in.
Yeah, so generally people will say it's your subconscious mind, your higher self. Your conscious mind is not choosing, for sure. Your conscious mind doesn't know.
All right, so before we get into your past life regression, I just want to get a little bit of a background about who you are. And so you were born in Staten Island.
I grew up with an Italian-American family from Staten Island, New York. So like most other Italian-Americans in New York, I was brought up in the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay.
And at the time, it's terrible to say, but I really didn't feel like any particular way about going to church.
And then you have some relatives who are in the Navy. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in high school around this time. I have friends talking about going to college. I was a good student, but I really didn't want to be there. So I had some uncles in my family that were almost like father figures to me that I respected and loved a lot, and they both served in the Navy. And I thought, like, yeah, this is great. Why would I go to college when I could, get out of New York and
Yeah.
experience the world as a young man?
And how did your parents feel about that?
Yeah, they shut that down. At, at the time, at the time I had a good argument, and my parents were like, "That's absolutely not going to happen. We want you to go to college."
So you kind of compromised, as I understand. You went to like a maritime college.
And I went to a maritime college in the Bronx.
And then, so after college, you took a number of jobs working on ships of various kinds, and eventually you got a position working closer to the military, correct?
Yeah, I wound up serving as a civilian on a hybrid Navy ship, which was, composed mostly of Navy sailors, with a very small group of civilians that were doing the navigation.
So you had dreamt of going to the Navy, and here you are, basically in the Navy, but getting paid as a civilian.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
And what kind of ship? Where were you? What were you doing? What was the job?
The type of ship I was on, it's classified as an expeditionary sea base, and my particular ship was home ported in the Middle East,
Uh huh.
and we mostly patrolled the Straits of Hormuz.
Oh.
But our reason for being there was almost as a show of force, to deter any illegal activity against being committed against like civilian ships, trying to carry crude oil out of the Persian Gulf.
So all of this leads up to one very fateful night. Tell me a little bit about what happened that night.
So after months of training on this particular ship with a detachment of Navy SEALs, we were doing a anti-piracy mission off the coast of Somalia. We were tracking this particular vessel that we had intel saying that this vessel is carrying weapons parts for the Houthi rebels.
Right.
So we find the vessel of interest, and we basically conduct what's called a VBSS, which is Visit Board Search and Seizure. I had nothing to do with that in particular.
Because you're a civilian.
I'm a civilian, so at the time I was in charge of navigating the ship under supervision of a naval captain
Right.
and a civilian captain. That night on mission, we had lost two Navy SEALs.
Wait, two Navy SEALs perished on this night, died on this night.
Yeah, that's correct. They were lost at sea.
How did that happen? What happened?
So, as you know, Navy SEALs are, some of the best, if not the best, fighting forces, in the world. They conduct missions early in the morning when no one expects it, and this particular morning, there was inclement weather, heavy seas, pretty large swells.
Right.
So basically, the ship that I was navigating was the mothership. So we positioned ourselves a couple miles away from the vessel of interest. During that time, our SEALs boarded their special boats, their fast boats, and proceeded to sneak up on the vessel of interest. And once they get within range, they deploy a small wire ladder and proceed to board the vessel.
And so then in that process somewhere, two Navy SEALs were lost?
Yeah, well, if you can imagine, it's pitch black outside, basically in the middle of the ocean, rough weather, and they're climbing up a very thin wire ladder with, over 100 pounds of gear on their bodies. And while one of these SEALs was making the climb up the ladder, he had lost his footing and fell in the water.
Oh.
And as far as I know, his battle buddy or swim partner had jumped in the water after him to aid in his rescue. But that eventually led to losing both of them. Yeah. As the watch officer, as the navigational officer, you'd never want to hear the words that there's been a man overboard.
Right.
So the whole bridge team had sprung into action. I was immediately relieved by the civilian captain,
Right.
and we proceeded to do what we could to recover these men. We had drones in the air watching above. We had helicopters in the air monitoring the situation. We had, like I mentioned before, Navy SEAL boats in the water. We had every asset out to try to save
And
these
they,
men.
they couldn't be recovered.
We were unable to recover them. Yeah.
These guys are wearing 100 pounds worth of gear. I mean, that must be hard to stay afloat.
And they're the best swimmers in the world, so
Yeah.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And for how long did the rescue and search operation take place trying to find these guys?
We had searched the area of operation for over a week,
Oh.
scanning back and forth.
And the vessel that was boarded, did the intel prove to be accurate?
The intel was accurate. We had recovered weapons parts for guided missiles that were actively being used against civilian ships in the Red Sea.
So you're the person who's on watch, even though you're miles away from the incident, but you must have in some level felt a level of responsibility for this or connected to this.
I definitely did feel quite a bit of responsibility, although I was reassured that, I did my job. I did my job successfully.
Right.
As a young man, surrounded by people that I highly respect and quite literally were my heroes. There was definitely, I was definitely very emotionally charged,
Yeah.
confused, and didn't want to believe what was unfolding in front of me. I never really dealt with anything like that before.
And on some level, you're feeling, whether it's legitimate or not, on some emotional level, you're feeling responsible for these heroes of yours, their death.
Right. So it started to grow more and more obvious each day that we searched, that the likelihood of recovering these men from the water was becoming lower and lower every day.
Yeah.
And that started to deteriorate my mental state. And at this time, I was having night terrors that, is there something I could have done that changed the outcome?
You mentioned something happening on the ship that was really weird, where you felt like there was a darkness. Because didn't you guys have the pirates on board the ship, like
Yeah,
detained or
yeah,
something?
we did. We took the crew of the vessel of interest and we had them detained on our ship. They were treated very well. They were treated, like people. But our ship was actually stuck at sea while we were trying to figure out the logistics of what we were going to do with these people. If we were to pull into this country, would this country allow us to transfer
Right.
the custody over to them? And that turned into a headache, over 2 months. So at the time, I started having very powerful dreams, night terrors that would turn into sleep paralysis, where I'd wake up and I wasn't able to move my body for a short period of time. But during that time, it felt like I was being almost stalked or watched by some sort of entity or demon. Like I grew up in the Catholic Church, so there was definitely some very strong religious undertones, and I couldn't help but escape this feeling that there was this dark energy following me around everywhere I went.
So you're sleeping at night, you're waking up, and your body is paralyzed, and there's this sense that there are, in your lexicon of things, demons sort of crowding in upon you.
It felt like there was one entity in particular that attached itself to me. It didn't feel like multiple, but one night in particular, I had a dream that was charged with Catholic symbolism, and it was quite obvious to me that there was some sort of dark forces at play, and I had woken up completely paralyzed, and it felt like there was something laying in bed next to me, breathing down my neck.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
So very shocking, scary. My heart is, racing out of my chest, and my logical mind is trying to talk myself out of this and calm myself down.
Are you
Like,
are you
hey,
paralyzed at this moment, or you're able to move?
yeah,
Yeah.
I was paralyzed. The only thing that was able to move were my eyes.
So you're
And
you're
it was on
paralyzed in bed, and you have this strong sense that there is a very negative force lying right next to you,
Breathing down my neck, yes.
breathing down your neck. Oh my God.
I mean, to be completely honest, I was terrified.
Yeah, of course.
It was very visceral. It felt very real to me at the time, and no amount of logic was able to make this thing go away. So I did what I did best, and what I was taught to do when I was a kid, and I imagined Jesus being there with me, and almost instantly, this weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I quite literally felt the thing that was behind me get out of the bed, almost, infuriated with me, and it left. So then I started questioning a lot of things after that, but I could not escape this feeling like this energy was just around the corner.
Wow. So now I want to move us into
The fun part.
So under this strain, Peter quits his job and returns home.
There was a period of time where I was home, but I still felt this presence that I experienced on the ship, and I would get these fits, almost like a panic attack, which I'm not typically an anxious person. I've never had a panic attack before in my life prior to this. It just felt like there was this negative energy stalking me. That's the best way I could put it.
yeah.
It got to a point where I was at my girlfriend's house, and I really scared her one night, and she was like, listen, I love you. You should really go.
Get some professional help.
Right, right.
Oh.
I was like, okay, a therapist. And she was like, no, you need to see like an energy worker or a healer or someone that does past life regressions. And something ticked in my head. I was like, past life regression? What's that?
All right. So Fiona, tell us, what was your experience as you're beginning this regression with Peter?
I'm glad that you asked me about what happened at the beginning, because something really weird happened at the beginning of our session for both of us. So we get on the call, we're talking, we're chatting, we're like, oh, we're going to do this, regression, blah, blah, blah. I started to feel somebody around me who was very, very, very sad. The grief was like, I can't even tell you. And often in a session with someone, a past self might come in, a relative might come in, somebody from somewhere might come in. So I'm never completely certain who this person is. Is it one of Peter's past selves that's showing up early? I don't know, but I felt it. And then Peter, you felt it as well.
So I'm actually kind of feeling it now.
Yeah.
It was just this overwhelming feeling of sadness, almost disbelief. It was almost like a child, like trying to understand
How
the
could this be happening?
atrocities that they were experiencing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, you just described it perfectly. I'm also tearing up. Thank God that I have Kleenex close by. But anyways, we both feel this at the beginning of the session. I'm like, oh my God, okay, whoever this is, we're here to help you. It's going to be okay. Just hold tight. And we went into the regression, and Peter didn't have a normal regression. No, he couldn't just have I was a baker in 1640. No, he goes somewhere very unexpected, and he experiences something very strange.
Tell us what happened from your point of view, Peter.
I was very lucid.
Okay.
And I'm in this hallway, and there's a bunch of doors, and I know specifically that there's this one door that I have to go to. There's this light almost vibrating from under the door. I open the door, and I step out into the light, and it seems like I'm coming out of a temple of some sort. The entrance that I'm coming out of, there's like a huge statue built into the entrance. I look around, and I'm in some sort of desert, arid environment. It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. It seemed to be like I was in Egypt, possibly before it was Egypt.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And I was greeted by, a small group of people that They looked happy to see me, as almost as if I might have been gone for some time. I
Uh-huh.
think I was in some sort of training.
And you had the feeling
Yeah.
of having been in that temple for a while, like maybe a couple of days or something.
Yes, and
Ah,
I had this idea come to me that I must have been in there trying to connect with something else.
okay.
And then Fiona had guided me in a different scene, right?
Remember?
I took him in that fluffy cloud. I always bring a fluffy cloud in to move from scene to scene. So I said, let's move into your fluffy cloud and let's go to a scene in that lifetime that was happy and joyful. You know, it's always nice just to get yourself grounded into a past life, not to just go somewhere terrible right away, right? Like, let's just go somewhere happy because then the client will relax more and they feel more joyful and open, and then they can go on to the more challenging bits, right? So yeah, we went to a happy, joyful moment in that past life.
Fiona always brings her fluffy cloud along,
I
which
love
is,
it, just
helpful.
works really well.
It does work.
Okay.
It's a
So
conveyor.
Fiona invited you into another moment in that lifetime. Where did you end up?
Yeah, so almost immediately it felt like I was brought to my home. I had this image of presumably my wife and children. We were sitting at a relatively large table, round table,
Right.
and we were eating this really nice dinner. And it came to me that my family was actually celebrating me for
Oh,
something. Yeah.
and did you figure out what it was?
I had almost, I don't really know how to put it, like landed a job, a very prestigious job.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it felt good actually. And in that moment, I really did feel like this genuine sensation that I'd be able to provide for my family. I felt very proud of myself.
That's so sweet. Fiona had invited you into this positive moment and you had found this beautiful moment. What happened next, Fiona?
I think at that point we wanted to know what it was. Like, what is this job?
Oh,
Fiona then leads Peter to a critical moment in this new job where he's woken up in the middle of the night and hurried off.
To see someone who had quite a bit of power.
right.
It didn't feel like the first time I went to go visit this
Uh-huh.
person. It feels like I was in this position for a while now. I did feel older. I remember like looking at my hands and, it just seemed a bit more aged.
Right.
Yeah, we go to this beautiful, beautiful building and I'm waiting to be seen by, someone who has tremendous power. And they want to know what I have to see. They want to know what I see for the specific, I don't know, target timeline. Like, I don't even know how to explain it.
All right. So you're about to see someone of enormous power because that person wants to know from you something specifically about, you don't know quite what it is.
In this moment, it felt like it was the of most importance to almost view a specific memory, or
Oh,
it's
so
still
there's
hard for me
some,
to explain.
yeah.
It was
Fiona, what do you hear? Jump in, Fiona.
I believe that you were a seer. You're
Okay.
in this dining hall. You're speaking to this person. You're being asked to access some information. And what do you see, notice, or experience next?
yeah, immediately after I'm asked to see what he wants me to see, it seems as if I enter like a meditative state and I have these crystal clear visions of a red planet. And it seems as if like, uh-oh, I'm where I'm supposed to be, but I think I'm way past the time I'm supposed to be there. Like I overshot it. And I have these crystal clear visions of me on a red planet with like kind of dilapidated structures, old columns that looked like were handcrafted, kind of in disarray. And while I'm trying to get my bearings, I immediately realized that this isn't just some red planet. I had this strong feeling that I'm on Mars.
On Mars.
And while I'm peeking around this, place where I probably shouldn't be, I have this feeling that someone is watching me. And there's this man who first think it's a man, but then come to realize that he is not human. Pale, blue skin, but very humanoid, maybe blonde hair, blue eyes, staring at me. And he is just looking right through me, and he doesn't want me to be there. I knew that this person, this thing was very intelligent, much more intelligent than I was, and I was almost like a bug to him. My presence annoyed him. Like, you shouldn't be here. Get out of here.
Was he evil or was he just sort of just dismissive?
I would say he definitely wasn't benevolent. I don't
So-
think it was more like I was a nuisance, like a fly
right,
on the wall, and he wanted to
right.
swat me out of the picture.
That's kind of like how my wife treats me. It's sort of like that. So I can relate to it. I mean, that's fair. Okay, so what happens? What happens next?
Getting the picture, getting the idea that this guy didn't want me there, I really didn't have it in me to push any further, because it was quite a lot. I
Yeah.
don't
So
know what
you
you could.
decide to get out of there
And yeah, I get back at this dining hall
with
with.
the powerful being.
Right, and it felt like, yeah, I did the job I was sent there to do, but it felt like something was off. I wasn't as accurate as I used to be at seeing
Uh-huh.
things. That's what it felt
Ah,
like. It felt like me and this person were friends,
right.
and it was kind of like, hey, more of like a good friend letting me down. Like, that is not what I asked you to do.
So at this point, you're pretty clear. You had abilities as a seer of some sort, and these abilities are in decline.
Yeah, that became quite obvious. If you can imagine, like, an athlete eventually becoming less and less athletic at the older they get. That's
Right,
exactly what it felt like.
right.
Before we go to the end of the life, which is where we're coming to, which gets really beautiful, in the session, you didn't want to say Egypt. You were like really hesitant. You're like, oh, it kind of feels like Egypt, but I don't know. And then you mentioned you were definitely on a big river, and I did a little bit of digging, and there was a city called Heliopolis, and it's actually a suburb now in Cairo, and it was on the Nile. I think they said it was like the east side of the Nile. And in Heliopolis, they had a big temple there. There was a high priest of Ra. There was a lot of seers there, but the high priest of Ra, who would be male, was the seer of all seers. They actually did spend a lot of time looking at constellations. So it kind of ties into that, that's a
Oh, wow.
possibility that's where you may have been.
And if you were, when you tied that in, were you saying that Peter's lifetime, he was the high seer, or the person he was reporting to was a high
Oh no,
seer?
I'd say he was the high seer. I think the person
High
he was
seer,
reporting
yeah.
to couldn't see anything, so he calls in the
Ah,
high priest
I
of
see.
Ra. Now, I'm just
Right.
surmising. I can't say 100% that he was, but he had
Yeah.
the job. He was brought to the highest person,
Right.
and then when he was in that temple in the beginning of the session, and he was in there for a few days, that's one of the ways you
Ah,
hone your craft, right?
or the,
You go into one of those tanks. What are they called?
The
Take away.
sensory
Yeah,
deprivation.
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So to Fiona, did you then invite Peter to go into another phase in this
Yeah,
life?
so we figured we kind of saw all we needed to see in that lifetime. We kind of knew it was going
Right.
on. And now he's getting old. I was like, let's go to the end of your life and let's see what happens next.
Yeah, so then I see myself in my home being comforted by my wife, and Fiona basically tells me that, we should see what happens when I die, which is crazy.
Fiona, what are you inviting him to do?
Well, I try not to lead people. So I say, let's go to the last moment of death and let's see what happens next. How do you leave your body? Do you leave your body? What happens? And I
Right.
can't remember how you left your body, whether it was through your head or your chest
It
or.
was it felt
Mhm.
like this essence had seeped through like the crown of my skull. Then almost instantly it felt like I was being launched this ball of light almost. That doesn't do it justice for what I actually saw, but it was almost like this essence of light just got shot into hyperspace, and I'm very quickly not on that plane of existence anymore, Earth. I'm traveling through, the best I could describe it was space. It was dark. There wasn't much light around me, but this feeling that I knew exactly where I was going. I was returning home, and the closer and closer I got to that feeling, the more the sky, this dark sky, lit up around me with other balls of light or essence of energy that looked exactly like me, catapulting through the sky like hyperspace. And
But
it was very emotional.
It's the
Uh,
sense of going home.
Energetically, though, it's
Yeah.
not like me physically entering my home, but like
Right.
it felt like I was like energy being returned to a battery almost.
Wow.
And Fiona had told me, like, kind of examine, like, what are you? Can you examine what you are? And that like blew my mind. It almost like stopped me in my tracks. Like I'm still imagining me like flying through like this hyperspace, but I look at myself, I look at this energy, and I like almost zoom in to myself. And this is crazy. It was like fractals. It was like if I was a diamond, if I was this brilliant diamond and you looked into it, it was just inside of it was the same thing over and over and over again.
Oh, it's that thing where, like, if you take a picture of a TV screen and it's it's the TV inside the TV inside the TV inside the
Right.
TV, like, but it's more. This is like,
Beautiful patterns, very geometric, just like this brilliant white energy.
and what was your experience when you saw that?
Oh, it blew my mind. It was like it was joyous, actually. It was that feeling of coming home like amplified tenfold, a hundredfold. Yeah, I can't even like really accurately describe it, but it felt great. It was like excitement that I was getting going back to where I came from. I got this overwhelming feeling like everything is connected. We're all one. We're all heading to the same place. We all come from the same place in one way or another. Your experience is my experience is yours. We might not be able to see that clearly now, but I truly believe that one day we will, and we already know it. You'll just remember.
Yeah.
That's my honest belief.
you just put it all in a
Wow.
nutshell. Like I
Wow.
I see this not every day, but working with clients, and even having my own experience, I've seen this a million times. We're all connected, we're all one, and we're always okay. We should not be frightened. And yet here we are, frightened and separate.
Yeah, exactly. I like that Peter said, we don't know it, but we will, and we actually do already know it.
It's so beautiful.
It's an incredible. So,
Yeah.
did it go further than that?
It did go a little bit further. My visuals kind of stopped, and there was
Uh,
almost this inner dialogue. I don't really understand a lot of
uh,
what's going on, but I remember hearing like it was like, "Welcome back. How was it?" And that like sent chills down my body.
some greater thing was welcome you back to heaven, to this divine place.
For me, it wasn't like this physical heaven with
Right.
golden pearly gates,
Right. Yeah.
whatever. It was very energetic for me, and something. I don't want to say it was God or whatever. It felt like I was being welcomed back by like familiar
Right.
energy, and it
That's so
was
beautiful.
joyous.
That's
Like,
amazing.
yeah, how are you? How was it? And they were almost happy. It felt like they were happy that I experienced it because, in a way, they got to experience it. And this one, very clearly, this one phrase, which I didn't know what it meant at the time. I kind of looked it up now. This one phrase came to mind, and it was divine play.
Divine play.
Divine play.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's amazing.
Hmm.
And what is the emotional experience?
I was completely blissed out. I don't even
Okay.
think joy was like my body felt light, and that feeling is really good. Like there was nothing to worry about, and it's like,
Right.
why are you? It's like everything's nonsense. Why are you worrying about?
It's all just
You know,
divine play.
and
Yeah.
being in that state, it's very peaceful. Yeah.
But we weren't done with Peter yet. Well,
Oh, okay.
okay, we were done with Peter, but we weren't done with that poor young person that showed up at the beginning of the session. A child or
Right.
a young person who is experiencing something very terrible, something deathly, even before we went
Right.
into the regression, right? So I said to Peter, like, we have to go pick up this person who, kind of intercepted our energy at the beginning. It wasn't a past self. It was, I actually think I know where that person came from.
Okay. Okay.
I think that person was connected to you. Peter, as an attachment. And we have attachments all the time. Everyone often has attachments to people. I think that person was an attachment in need of healing.
What you're referring to is like souls will sometimes attach to other souls because there's almost a neediness and maybe this person will help me. And so is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
and I don't want people to be freaked out by that. It's actually
Right.
very, very common. Like we could have an attachment to an ex-partner who we never got clarity with, and we still have imagine some little like strings attached to us, right? Sometimes people do cord cutting ceremonies. Sometimes an attachment's really healing and helpful for us. Sometimes there's something that they need to heal and we need to heal, and they're kind of attached to us until we both work this out. And I think that that's the case with Peter.
Okay, so Peter had this attachment. You had a sense now that this was an attachment. It was a young person that you both had sort of felt in the beginning. How did you get to the bottom of this?
So we brought in the cloud.
The trusty cloud.
So I took him back to the long hallway with all the doorways, and I said, look for a doorway or a door that stands out for you in regards to helping this young person.
Almost as soon as the words came out of Fiona's mouth, I felt like I was there and I knew exactly what was going on. And you have to remember, I was coming from a state of like complete bliss. So it's at like the top of the wave, and I just immediately knew as it was definitely a young child. I saw it. It seemed like they were in the midst of a genocide of some sort.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm getting
God.
shivers.
So this is a young person who's sort of witnessing around them some sort of mass killing event, and they're in absolute terror.
Right. And I think they were a victim of it and just completely confused as to how could something like this happen? You're a child.
Was the child relating to you? Poor Fiona's
I
crying.
know. I can feel the energy of it.
It's a
So
lot.
we were bawling. It's a horrible feeling.
I can't even imagine.
Can I say what I think I think
Yes.
that child was attached to one of those men that were on the ship.
Oh. Wait, say that, explain that. I don't
So
understand.
the men that were detained on the ship off the coast of Somalia, I think that I don't know who's genociding who. Like I'm not really good at that, but I think that somehow that kid was connected with one of the guys on the ship. One of the guys that were locked up, that were detained. And I could be wrong, but I feel it. Like I feel it inside me.
Yeah.
I think you're probably feeling it right now too.
I feel it everywhere.
Yeah, and it was just the feeling of like we all have hard lives, but we don't know what it's like to be a little kid in a situation like that, where it's not only you that's being hurt, the adults around you are frightened and hurt as well. It's a really heavy energy, and we both were.
Yeah.
I know he's trying not to cry right now, but in the session we were like bawling. So anyway, okay, I'm gonna try to
Well, hold on. I want to hear
state.
Peter. Hold on, I want to hear Peter's.
Yeah, well, Fiona's, explaining this and kind of connecting the dots for me. It literally feels like my spine is on fire. I feel it in my heart. I feel it in the back of my head. And, I can't even begin to imagine what that experience must be like for anyone, let alone, a child.
You're experiencing the child sort of. He's already dead. It's the soul of the child that has already been victim of this genocide, or is he in the midst of a genocide?
He's in it. So what happens when we experience trauma? Often a little piece of us is just kind of left there. If we don't have any kind of support, 8-year-old me could be somewhere right now, right? So we were in his moments of like, what is happening here?
So
it was
it's in the actual the shit is going down sort of moment
it's
of holy
going
shit.
down.
And you felt a connection between him and one of the prisoners on the ship.
I don't know. I just feel because you said when you could see the kid, he was of African descent, right? Like, yeah.
And it felt present. It didn't feel like this is something that happened long ago or in the future. This was happening quite recently.
Yeah, I want to say though, we didn't leave that poor little kid in that moment. We rescued
Okay,
him.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't just go there and say, "Oh my God, this is terrible," and leave him. Um, I I guided Peter to, because he was attached to Peter. I guided Peter to rescue the boy energetically,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and take him out of that moment. Let him know that that moment is divine play, terrible
Right.
divine play, but it's divine play.
Right.
So Peter's able to rescue him, and I think his father came in, or I can't remember who came in.
Right.
Yeah,
It was his father.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and he was able to
Hold on. So
reconnect.
you've guided
Hmm.
Peter to take this energy, this
Yeah,
boy,
yeah.
and brought him to a safe place, I'm assuming?
Yes, yes. We brought him
Uh-huh.
to a safe place. I got Peter to comfort him and to calm
Uh-huh.
him down and to let him know that that our bodies are temporary, even our personalities, who we are, this is temporary. You know, our
Right.
souls, our higher selves are eternal. And these traumatic moments, these illusions, we're just stuck in the belief that it's really happening. And when we can rescue someone, get them out of the moment, get them calm, and then get them to realize like that's done, like that's over. Let's go. And they get to reconnect with their higher self, which is also source, and we all become more whole, like all of us.
Right.
You know,
And
every rescue is everyone's rescue.
yeah, that's a beautiful
Hmm.
thing. Every
Hmm.
rescue is everyone's rescue because we're all
Yeah,
connected.
yeah.
And as you were in this process and Peter was helping this boy, you had a sense, Peter, that the boy's father came in?
Yeah, I don't know why. A safe place in this situation, it was me and this kid, hanging in a tree. Just like it was just like me, it felt like me and my little brother.
Like sitting on a tree branch.
High up in a tree branch, like very calm, serene, and I had this overwhelming feeling that he wanted his father,
Oh,
and there it was. Like it just made sense. And as soon as I imagined him being comforted and taken away by his father and his parents, it felt like a load was taken off my shoulders. I physically felt that walking away from that session. I feel lighter. It's all this stuff is just gone now, and it feels like we did a good thing.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
What was the word, Fiona, you were using? The bond or the attachment that
Yeah,
this boy
like these
had to
attachments.
Peter
Yeah.
was sort of the father came along and the boy released that
Yep.
because he had the comfort of his father there once
Yep.
again.
And we broke the illusion that he was still in that moment. Like we took him out of
Right.
there. He's gone, right? Like, because this all is an illusion, you know?
I sometimes I say that and people kind of roll their eyes at me, but
I know
I
it's a
it
real
it
solid illusion, but it is an
it's pretty
illusion.
convincing. It's pretty
Sometimes we
convincing.
sometimes we get to have beautiful moments where we touch something else and we go, "Oh my God, there is something else." You know? And you have enough of
Yeah.
those.
would you say
Yeah.
it was ontological shock?
Ontological shock, it absolutely is. It's ontological shock. When something like very spiritually crazy happens, like if an ET walked in your house right this moment and just walked in your room and was like, "Oh, hi there," you're gonna lose your shit. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, what is going on? Like, how is
Right.
this real?" You know? And it's shocking. And then you kind
Yeah.
of get used to it. Maybe you have another shock here and there. And
Oh, and
yeah.
you get acclimated to it.
Every time it happens to me, which there's been a handful of times where it has, immediately start questioning whether or not I'm alive or not. Because something's so crazy. It's like there's no way this makes sense. I'm obviously dead, and I don't know it. But no, that's just
Yeah.
Fiona enlightened me. It's ontological shock. It just pulls you out
Yeah.
of your reality, and you kind of experience what's really going on.
And I think, and then
Yeah.
Fiona's point is that the more times you have this ontological shock, I don't know what ontological means, but I'm using the word
Ontological. Yeah.
ontological, but the more times you have it, the more you become accustomed to it. And so what we thought was reality and these crazy things that are happening, suddenly the crazy things aren't as shocking and reality has expanded as a
Because
result.
this is real. What we're doing right now is very real. But
Yeah. There's
there's
just dimensions we're not seeing.
There's other things that are more
that
real.
Yeah.
there's more. Yeah, that's the best way to
Yeah.
put it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Peter has this past life in which he was a prominent seer, and now in this lifetime he sees so much. I mean, you've guided him so beautifully, Fiona. But I think you came into this life, it sounds like, with a fair
Yeah.
bit of training. This is a skill that you have.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I think there's a lot of people that can do this type of stuff and they're almost scared or afraid. And
Yeah.
for me, it can be very overwhelming. It can be scary, but that is like the most beautiful thing
Yeah. Well,
in and of itself. Yeah.
okay. So the last thing I want to ask you about this regression with Fiona, how has it changed you? What have you taken away? Do you feel different as a result of
I
it?
think it's definitely opened my eyes more. I love speaking with Fiona because it's very validating that everything that I'm experiencing, I'm not a crazy person, like I'm not delusional. And this regression has made me I feel more confident in myself. I want to believe in the things that I see and experience. It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This has just been so great.
I
This
know.
is just, I don't know what else to say. It's just been so
This has
great
been
to hear
freaking
this
amazing.
story.
He's so engaging, hey? Like he's
Oh
so
my God.
It's just I don't know. He's got a way.
If I'm being completely honest, it makes me want to grow a mustache. I mean, could I be that engaging if I had a mustache too?
You're
Anyway.
engaging already.
Peter, thank you so much.
And this has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jay and Fiona. I mean, inviting me on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
What you do to me, love is
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Realization Lab on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
hallelujah.